So welcome to Profiletree TV, and today I'm very excited to be joined by Barry Brennan. So Barry, thank you for taking time out and talking to us today. It's great to have you here with us.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. So you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, my career is fairly varied. So I spent 10 years in London and the remainder in Dublin, working in a few different roles. I started in law and then moved into investment banking, corporate finance, kind of focused on the financial innovation area. Then moved into investment management, and now I guess one of my final pivots now is into the technology arena. And I also work as a non-executive director in fund and finance companies and for technology companies as outside of some of my other roles as well.
Incredible. And you have a company, or the company is called CapF9?
CapF9, yeah. So CapF9, I guess, is a small company focused on a few different areas. One is working with fast-growing early-stage technology companies to provide kind of growth advice, strategic advice, and funding advice. Mm-hmm. Secondly, working with larger companies looking at new technology projects and business planning and implementation of those projects. And finally, within the CapF9 mandate, we also work on specialist investment management mandates, which a little bit goes to some of my past in the investment management and banking world. I also work as a mentor for Enterprise Ireland and various accelerators here in Ireland, and I've had a chance to work in the north or do some work with the accelerators north and south. And I'm what's called an expert evaluator for the European Commission on EIC accelerator grants. So these are grants for companies focused on innovation across the European region, which is amazing. Gets a chance to meet or see companies from all over Europe doing amazing things in technology and ag tech, which would be an area also.
Incredible. So it sounds like you're very busy.
I'm busy and having a ball. Yeah. So I can't complain.
That's about excellent. And you have a lot of interest in early stage technology companies. That's a passion of yours?
I guess it's a passion and a business for me. I think it's I think the passion side is really about engaging and working in the technology world. I guess I reached a point where I kind of wondered whether I was going to be the old guy in the room who knew about technology or the old guy in the room that didn't know about technology. And still the old guy in the room, but I'm trying to learn and still learn about technology. So in part, it's, I think, preparing for the world and the way the future is going to look for myself at a very basic level. But also, it's a chance to work with amazing people in nimble organizations, building amazing new products. I have a friend who says I use amazing too much, but maybe I'm in this area and seeing these interesting people doing fascinating things. So I think that is the passion, but also it's really moving from, I guess, large finance to in big banks to being able to work with companies and see an immediate impact in terms of investment from investors. I think that's hugely satisfying. So I have an example. A company I work with is called Hexafly, which is a black soldier fly farm based in the centre of Ireland, growing sustainable proteins and fertilizers for a number of different industries. So I managed to go on to Amazon, or you can go on to Hexafly's own website and order little grubs for birds, or a special fertilizer, or live grubs feeding Belfast Zoo and Dublin Zoo and various different zoos around Ireland. And I guess being able to see and be that close to great people doing hard things, I think is really satisfying as well, and hugely rewarding.
Incredible. No, it's incredible. I think using the word amazing, I think it shows you're interested and passionate. I think I have a word that I overuse is incredible. So
incredible, that's okay. Yeah. So they are incredible. Incredible can go two ways. Yeah. Sometimes financials presented by a company can be incredible, but that's difficult to believe can be also another version of incredible. Right.
Brilliant. And investing obviously from your point of view, it can be a very complex process. Are there many sources of external finance out there that companies could and should be looking at?
I think, yeah, there's a few things to look at, and certainly if you look at the island of Ireland, you have a lot of local agencies from the local enterprise offices, Enterprise Ireland, Invest NI, Intertrade Ireland, the European Union look at funding, Innovate UK look at funding as well. So there's a lot of local sources of funding and support for companies. Now, it's not perfect, and given at this time we're in the middle of COVID right now, I think there's some very specific challenges there. But there are numerous sources of funding, as I say, from the local government agencies on the one hand, and then from VC investors, private individuals, and other local investors here in the local markets. Yeah, there's different places you can go for different types of capital or grant application.
Amazing. And is there? Do you still think there's a lot of challenges around a company looking for funding, or?
It's not easy. It's not easy, and yeah, I think it's a difficult environment. We are a small island, with our own ecosystem, 2 ecosystems in fact, and competing against bigger countries with huge ecosystems. I think the island of Ireland is doing actually some great things. There's some amazing companies coming out. There's amazing again, but and even in the last 3 or 4 months, and even at the height of where we are of this crisis, there's actually funding happening in the market, and very large scale funding. So you can make it work, but you have to be careful. And I guess that's hopefully where I get a chance to work with companies to try and help them make that happen, or work with investors who are interested in trying to filter out, I guess, the low probability chances of success and the higher probability chances of success.
No, totally. And is there a lot of things that people, I guess, the funders who are thinking of investing, and even the company owners or the founders, they should consider when looking at investing? Is there a few key points that should be considered?
Yeah, I think there's a really basic question that a company should ask itself, and I'm not sure if they do ask this of themselves, which is, I guess, what kind of company do you want to be, and what kind of founder and what kind of lifestyle do you want to have? And and this is a really basic question, but important one. 99% of the companies around Ireland right now don't attract external capital from venture capital investors, and they're great businesses, like really great businesses. Certain types of businesses attract certain types of capital, and I think a business that's fast growing, that's scalable, that's generally technology driven, with that ability to grow really fast, can attract that venture capital and, let's say, private angel capital. And if you have a profile that matches that, then you will be attracted to those investors. If you don't have that profile, don't be disappointed that you don't get that type of investment, because there may be other types of investment that are appropriate. That can be grant investment from local agencies, or it could be local investors who have an interest in that particular product and a different outlook. If you're in the venture investment world, you need high outcomes. You need a good number or a small number of high outcomes, because the risk associated with this investment class is very high. And what an investor is trying to do here is to look at patterns of businesses and patterns of success, and layer that pattern of success over the pattern of the business that they're meeting. And in that case, then you have a chance of success. It doesn't mean you can be successful, but you have a higher probability of success. And then it's a case of helping the company and investors working to help that company to grow as fast as possible, and possibly then looking to raise future finance. So I think asking at a basic level what you think success looks like for your company, what the future can look like for your company in terms of, do you want to be 5 employees forever, which is totally fine. But if you want to be 5 employees forever, based in a small or a particular geography, doing one thing and doing it really well and being successful, that can be a great business, but it mightn't necessarily be, let's say, a venture backable business. And I think that's something that you can see in pitches sometimes, where that realization of you have to put yourself as a company in the mind of the investor and what they're seeking. And the investor clearly has to put themselves in the mind of the company and understand what that company is seeking.
Is having the right team an important factor then for a startup looking for investment?
Yeah, look, I think for most investors, and certainly VC investors, it's either point 1 or point 2. There are some cliches about, I guess, A teams with B ideas succeeding versus B teams with A ideas. In the end, it's a balance between the two. But if you don't have the right team leading the initiative, things go wrong. And you need a team that not only is the best possible team, but is also adaptable and able to change. And I guess I look through a few lenses. I guess the first is, what you'd see as soft skills, which sound, sometimes when you say soft skill, it doesn't sound important, but it is important. I'll talk a little bit about that. I guess then you have what I call hard skills of the founders. And then finally, you have a kind of a combination of those factors. So examples of soft skills are really basic things like integrity, honesty. That's basic because an investor is giving you money under a set of terms. But to be honest, the cash is in your account and you go off and spend that. And you could be spending that for 2 years. And the investor isn't going to be able to stop you. So you need, as an investor, to trust at a very basic level the integrity and honesty of the company founders. Basic professionalism, again, is also important. I love the phrase "be authentic" and "be yourself." I think that's brilliant. But if the version of yourself that's authentic is not professional, it's not very attractive to an investor. And that can go down to really basic things like responding to emails on time, delivering what you say you deliver, doing what you say you would do. You have characteristics like the ability to sell. If you're building a product and you've fallen in love with the product, that's excellent, but you need to be able to sell that product. And you need to be able to sell that product probably ideally into the market that you're telling the investor that you're selling into. And there's a whole other world about founder market fit, there's product market fit, there's founder product fit, there's different triangulations of those different characteristics on there. Having a bit of neck, that helps. I think a bit of shamelessness, I like a little bit of that. Personally, maybe I can be shameless myself, but I think that, you will have to knock on doors that are people that want to see you. So you may have to be creative about seeing those people. And I think that a little bit of neck is important. And I think drive and ambition is critical. If you are looking to create a company that has this sort of trajectory, and you're telling an investor that you have this sort of trajectory, you need to be very convincing that you can deliver that. And you need to be very driven about that single goal. Because if you're not, you'll get knocked back. And this isn't about being negative about starting your own business. You work for your own business. I work for my own business. There's so many positive things there. But every now and then, doing your 360 degree of yourself, it's not that easy, right? So I think being able to be resilient, have that drive and ambition to batter down walls, you can demonstrate that to an investor. I think that's tremendously powerful. The other area, I guess, I talked about were soft skills. Hard skills can come down to the basic skill set of the individual. So if you're a technology company, you will need technology expertise. If you're a company built on selling products, you'll need sales expertise. In science, need science expertise. But I think there are a number of those factors which can be easier to map against the vision and the goals of the company. But I think what is possibly more important is the combination of skill sets between soft and hard and between the different members of the team. So you will have a number of investors who won't invest in solo founders, for example. And one of the reasons is because of the resilience and you know, how hard it is to keep going on your own. That's one factor. But also it's hard to find all of the skills necessary to succeed in business in one person. And being able to convince other people to come on your journey and join with your vision, to be able to articulate that vision and to be able to, I guess, get other people to risk their own careers, to put it on hold, to join your mission. That shows that you can convince other people. And if you convince other people, you can possibly convince somebody to buy your product, and you convince an investor to invest in your product. So as I say, there's probably 3 different dimensions there, as I say, soft skills, hard skills, and combination skills. And if, you know, for solo founders, particularly in the technology area, if you can find a good or a great co-founder that is complementary to your own skill set and fills in the gaps that you see, I think that's tremendously powerful. And I guess a last, which is a soft skill, around an ability to listen and an ability to possibly change tack, is critical. So you need determination, you need drive, but you need to be able to see when things are going wrong, and you need to be able to take advice and be willing to take advice, and showing those characteristics are hugely, I can be hugely impactful, particularly for an investor. Now, you don't want your investors telling you what to do, and a good investor will look at what you're doing, and you as the CEO or you as the founder, it's your business and you drive what is successful. But having a good set of investors, sometimes on your board, sometimes as a board observer, in my opinion, should be embraced, because you can rely and find incredible advice from some investors around the table who want to help and who can help. And if you have investors, if you're a company who's raised capital from investors and you haven't asked for favors and you haven't asked your investor group to help, I would do that, and you'll be amazed what can come back. And it can be any question, and you'll get some amazing responses.
Oh. And when you meet companies out there in the market, do you often find a complete team, or do you think it's a mix? You find the A and the B example that you gave. I'm just wondering, would you say half of companies are already have it all together, or most companies do need a little bit of guidance and help?
I think I saw a company this morning, and the founder is fantastic, and the people. There was a kind of a panel, a group of people who all were amazingly complimentary about the guy, but he needed a co-founder, and he needed it on resilience and a couple of other issues, and he was getting a co-founder, and it was going to be an amazing co-founder. So in that case, it's on the roadmap, and they'll find it. In other cases, some people are resistant because they're afraid of giving away. Or somehow that it weakens their position. A great company, again, that I work with down here in Dublin, Snapfix. It's basically hotel and building maintenance through pictures. I highly recommend any of the hoteliers or people to take a look at it in particular, or in the building maintenance area. But he was an amazing founder that probably could have raised capital in many ways on his own. But he was determined to bring in great co-founders, and he's found some really great people to come in on that journey who will bring technical, financial, and other complementary skills into that business, because he wants to grow that business so that in 24 months' time, when a new set of investors come, they see a highly professional organization. And depending on the type of business you're building, or if you need further capital, as you go over time and as you become a bigger company and managing being successful as a small company or managing a big company, there's a whole lot of different skill sets there. But being able to demonstrate, proper financials and showing a great CTO, great sales, also great investor communications, which in my opinion, this company has, that is hugely impactful for follow-on funding strategy. So yeah, it really can change. Sometimes you get the perfect, it arrives and everything's tied up in a bow, but it's probably, yeah, that may be rare, but in a lot of cases, though, the team that comes in, people have figured this out before they are in front of investors because they know how important that is.
Incredible. And as we were talking about before, I've been through an investment round or investment, and it was 3 rounds over a period of time. And I think of all the advice you've given so far, we had probably none of it. So,
okay.
So,
Well, if this video you can send off to people, hopefully. And hey, look, I will say one thing here, and I say to people, never take advice from an investor who doesn't give you money. So that's kind of, I say it somewhat ironically, right? Because you do have to be careful. And my kids forum shop between me and my wife on if they can do certain things. And I'm not sure if I'm the soft touch or the hard touch, to be honest. But I think you have to you have to listen to and then make up your own mind. But if you listen to different types of investors saying different things, you will see some patterns. There is no one, there's definitely, and that's why I wanted to make the point at the start, there's no one right way to do this. And there's huge amounts of exceptions, and investors make a lot of exceptions. But to me, when I speak to companies, it's really about trying to help them answer a question, prepare them for a question that they're about to be asked, or B, close it away so it doesn't need to be asked. Because if you go into a pitch and everything's perfect, you may get that. You could get a very quick yes. And the form that pitches that people use, I do name check a guy called Guy Kawasaki. He is on the internet, does 10-page, 12-page slides, really highly basic stuff. And some of the stuff I'm talking about, you'll see on that. But it's basic because it's generally right. An investor likes to see a pattern in the presentation, and it can be, it's problem, solution, team is somewhere in the mix. It's a huge market. That's something I was going to touch on as well. The other kind of things to look at for that you are giving an investor an opportunity to tackle a huge market, and that this is a hugely exciting thing. And ideally, if that investor doesn't do it, you're missing out on something. But in the end, if you are tackling a huge market and you're brilliant, you have a higher probability of success than tackling a small market and being the number, being brilliant. So I think some investors will want you to show that big market. And there's language around total addressable market. I think serviceable addressable market, serviceable obtainable market. If anyone Googles any of those 3, there's a Tom, Sam. That the reason investors are asking you to do that is because if you say that my market is 5, success looks like, to be the best company in this market is 1 million euros. You'd have to be the number 1 player in that market to make 1 million. And no, there's no number 1 players in any market taking all. There are very few monopolies. And saying to somebody, the flip side is saying to somebody that I can tackle China and it's 55 billion in this market and all I need is 1%. Also, that's, it's not all I need. All I need is 1% is fine, but you need to show the roadmap and convince somebody that you're credible in terms of delivering that. And I think, as I said, there are other kind of themes that you'll see. We're not touching on everything here, but there are other themes that you'll see around making sure you're tackling a big enough problem that really people can care about. And the other kind of 2 factors that I would weigh in there now, we're touching on that, is that what you're doing is, I guess, what's called an unmet need. And you have painkillers and you have vitamins. Ideally, you have a burning platform. You found an opportunity, you found a solution for a problem which is imminent, and it's burning, and it's pressing, and it's at the very front of the mind of the customer that you've identified. If you can demonstrate that, or show some path to that, that again is incredibly powerful. And the other aspect, which is a bit linked to the burning platform, but also linked to the stage of a company, and I guess a pattern that needs to be addressed, is timing. And timing can mean many, many different things. Timing can be what does the market look like now? What does the market look like when you think you can come to the market? Does your product require behavioral change? So you're not only selling a product to somebody, you're selling a new way of working to somebody. And that can, what does that mean? That means your revenue is back-ended. And for an investor, that's an additional risk. You can have opportunities which are linked to legislative change, which are linked to a regulatory change. And in that case, an investor is going to say, well, what if that doesn't happen? Is it going to happen? And your job as a company funder is to really be able to establish certainty that will happen, and the impact of what that will be.
When you're busy and you're building out your product or getting it ready, no one knows your product in the market like you do in your mind. And you're meeting all these incredible experienced investors or potential investors, and you say they're giving advice and pointing things out. But in reality, sometimes as founders, we don't listen to the sage advice, and it's a few years later in reflection you realize, if only, and they were right, and what to do. So again, I guess my experience is don't discount the advice, listen to it, and definitely make your own judgment on it for sure. But at all costs, listen to that advice, because we got a lot on our road, and some of it we should have listened to, and some of it we shouldn't. But I think there was loads more that we should have listened to and followed, because you can't beat experience, and people like yourself have seen this so many times. I'm sure, would you see 20, 30, 40 companies a year? And I'm just thinking the amount of advice and experience that you're building on over the years that you can depart and make judgments on.
I'd say probably 70 to 100 a year. So look, I have a great, I've had some great opportunities out of this world, working with Intertrade Ireland. It's a great body doing stuff on, again, the island of Ireland. So I had a chance to be a judge on the Ulster, the Northern Ireland competition. And look, what is amazing, and that's not just technology-driven companies, it's food-driven, it's hardware, it's all of these different types of companies. And I think the respect, I just have so much respect for the people that are doing this, and that, across the island, you have small companies that are the best. We have some great big companies here, but, the future of, making this place a success. And I say, being an island, that's hard. It's hard, so I think has to be through, powering on through technology and empowering people to create and make new businesses. So I just, as I say, so I get a chance to see all of these companies, and and I said it at the beginning, the reason I'm so enthusiastic about it is because I'm learning all the time, every single day, every single meeting with these great people, you actually get to learn. And in some ways, it's about refining my own business, my own pattern matching or my own business model all of the time. But it's really, as I say, the enthusiasm for me comes from that chance to and if there's a few small pieces of advice that I can give to help make that easier. As I say, in the end, though, the founder and the team needs to be comfortable with what they're trying to do themselves. You are the person, you are the team leading the business. And, I was even, thinking again, the times we're in now where we're all pausing, in part because the world has paused, but also I've been thinking about this quite a bit in terms of if you're a founder or if you're any business, and sometimes you don't get a chance to pause, actually. And I certainly haven't had a chance to pause for quite a long time. But it really means that I think the world is going to be different. I'm kind of intrigued on how it's going to look, but it is going to be different. Places are opening now that were closed. You know, as I say, we were chatting around. China is now open for business. I have a great buddy in Macau, you know, going for beers and playing golf, and I'm there going, God, you know, you've a lot of people on this island who kill a pint, but so you know, I think so. That's the hope. There's the hope bit there, but also I think people have to accept it's changed, and I think this is a chance really to look at your own business model, or I'm looking at my business model, so, and really wondering what, you know, how we sell. Is it going to be different, you know? And I think it is going to be, you know, people will. Zoom is here to stay. Video calling is now here to stay, and you can either not like it or like it. But I know a lot of startups who couldn't sell through Zoom last year, and now you've got companies that can't say no. So there, you know, there's parts of this that will open up opportunities. But if you've got a guy that's used to, you know, bringing people to hotel and big dinners, and that's the way he or she used to sell, I'm not, you know, that mightn't work anymore. So you need to look at every aspect of your, as I say, your product against the market, against the future market, how your customers are feeling. You know, literally almost everyone I speak to has had a wage cut, right? So if you're selling a product, think about the value proposition, not again when you're deep in the trenches of your own situation. It's really about imagining yourself as somebody who's had their wage cut. How you sell to them at a personal level, but also your genuine value proposition, because what used to matter mightn't matter at all. Now, saving money matters. So whatever, to be honest, in many of the pitches that I would see, whether that was 1, 2, or 3, I'd be saying, can you make it 1? Can you make it? Because right now we're about survival for a lot of people. And the buying mechanism and the time to buy will change. So there's a huge amount of challenges there that I think if you need to pause. If we're all doing exactly the same as we were doing in January, and everything is the same, then I do wonder if we've reflected on what we're doing properly. So I think that's, I guess, part of, I guess, the evolution of this, and also why this kind of world is so exciting, because it changes so quickly as well.
Amazing. So you'd have, if there was one piece of advice, then you'd really be pushing business owners to pause. Is that one of the things you?
No, yeah. So I was writing up something for myself. There's 2 ways. Either there's 3 pieces. Maybe everything I say is in 3s. First is pause and think. It doesn't mean pause, stop. I'm not saying stop doing business. I'm saying pause and think about what you're doing. Don't just do the same because you did it last week or last month. 2, accelerate if you can, if you're certain, because right now there are genuine opportunities to grow. And there's a double-edged sword to what is happening now around COVID, because what it's happening is some people have been trying to do, let's say, video conferencing for a long time, and there's clear winners in that. But there's other other things people have been trying to sell that now have become so obvious it's the new normal. And if you're a company that can fit in there, that can be great. But a lot of other people are going to rush into that same space. So it may be a case of you have to accelerate at that point in time, and, you know, to be able to execute against that. And the last, and it's maybe because I was a banker in my old profession, cash is king. So anyone who's raised money, look at your plan again and really wonder about what you're spending. Are you spending money on marketing when no one is buying right now? Are you spending money on development which could be the right time, actually, if there is space? Are you extending your runway, i.e. the time to having to do your next raise? Because, you know, what is it going to be like in a winter's morning in January trying to raise money in 2021, right? That's what you have to imagine if you have money and you're going to run out there. So you got to stretch it out. And we're blessed with the great weather now, but I keep imagining a dull November day, what it's going to be like in Ireland, because I think it's going to be tough. And the investing environment is going to be tough. So everyone needs to particularly the early stage companies, is make that cash go longer. If you're raising money, you're pre-raising money now, I think you have to try and maybe raise either more money to get longer or the same amount of money and extend it for longer.
Sage advice again, so thank you for that. And even ourselves, we're online and in the digital space, so you think talking to people, they say you're in the perfect space for this, but even we, exactly as you say, we need to be creative and innovate and twist our business model, or we're going to be caught. I would say 2 years ago we were doing a lot on videos and webinars, and we've been one of the few people here to be doing it. Now I look around, and as you mentioned, everyone's doing it. So we're challenging ourselves. How do we be different? How do we go to that next level and push ourselves and stand out again? So no, definitely sage advice. I've learned one thing in the last couple of years, and that's listen to advice and take it on board as well, and see how we can implement it to the business. So again, it's really, really good to hear your thoughts on what's happening and where the opportunities might lie as well. So thank you again for that.
No, and as I say, don't listen to all advice equally. That's also the thing. And then in the end, make up your mind and go for it.
So what's on your plans for your future and for the company, CapF9? What's next on the list and for the next couple of years?
Yeah, in part, I guess, unusually, I might take some of my own advice and pause and think, and I'm still doing that. But as I say, I'm happy with the direction that the company is going, because I guess its mission was set up to work where like innovation, technology, finance, and I think great people. It's a triangle with great people in the middle, where they intersect, and I don't think that is a sustainable place to be, and you could say the need is more pressing than ever to be in that space. I think how I do that, or the way I do that, it may change, but what I'm doing, no, I think I'm having too much fun. And as I say, if I continue to get a chance to work with these great people, feel blessed.
Yes, excellent. And again, thank you very much for all the advice you've parted with today. That was incredible. If anyone wanted to reach out, connect, maybe may have an interesting opportunity to talk to you about, or need some help in your own business ready for investment, I definitely can see merits where you could help someone that's doing that as well. If anyone wants to reach out and have a chat, what's the best way for them to do that?
LinkedIn is probably best. I'm all over that. So, and that's, I think, the best format to get in touch.
Incredible. Well, we make sure we have a link directly to your profile underneath this video, so people can click through and have a chat. So again, Barry, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it, and I look forward to our next chat for sure.
Oh, definitely, if we can do a follow. But I really appreciate the time, and it's a great initiative you're doing. Thanks a million.
Thank you very much for watching today's video. Hope you've learned a lot, as I have, from Barry today. Please do click on the link below this video and connect with Barry on LinkedIn and say hello, and see if you can gather some more advice from him on your own journey for investment. If you did enjoy the video, please do share it on your social media as well. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you.